Hello footy fans, welcome to Bev's Footy Show for after round 15. Let's get straight into having a look at the episode agenda for this week's episode. I'm going to start off the show by having a look back at the round 15 results. It was another good round of footy. A look at the ladder follows that, and then getting into the stats wrap up, who's leading the goal kickers, disposals, marks and also tackles. The 5 talking points of the week is to come after the stats wrap up. Of course, some big headlines through the week following round 15 and also on round 15 and following that. So I have picked the best 5 talking points and we'll be discussing them on the show this week, and then the round 16 matches and tips to come at the end of the show. So another cracking episode of Bev's Footy Show. Let's get straight into it. So as I mentioned, round 15 was another good round of footy. Let's have a look at the results. The round started on Friday night with Melbourne and the Sydney Swans at the MCG, and the Swans pretty much dominated this game. They won the game by 35 points. The final score being Melbourne 7-8-50, defeated by the Sydney Swans 11-9-85 in front of 47,464 at the MCG. The Sydney Swans really making a statement in this game. They are really pushing for a top 8 spot now. They're only 4 points out of the top 8. They're sitting on 9th on the ladder. Of course, we'll have a look at the ladder very, very shortly. A bit of a disappointing loss for Melbourne, it's fair to say that. Of course, the big talking point from the match was, of course, Thomas Bugg and his punch to the jaw on Sydney's Callum Mills, who actually missed the rest of the game. It happened earlier in the first quarter. The 2 Saturday afternoon games, the first one was at Etihad Stadium between the Western Bulldogs and the West Coast Eagles. Probably a win that the Dogs were expected to get, considering the West Coast Eagles' form in Melbourne of recent times, but the Eagles were able to claim a 7-point win, and that might seem close. It was a close finish, but they were 30-odd points up at one stage, the Eagles, and the Dogs did surge back in the fourth quarter, got in front, but it wasn't enough. Vardy sealed the deal, and the Dogs 11-14-80 defeated by the West Coast Eagles 12-15-87 in front of 26,671 at Etihad Stadium. The other Saturday afternoon game was at the MCG between Carlton and the Adelaide Crows. And, well, Carlton did take it up to the Crows, but the Crows won in the end. But good effort from the Blues, I should say, but a good win for the Crows. The final score being Carlton 12-5-77, defeated by the Adelaide Crows 13-11-89 in front of 33 plus at the MCG, 33,000 plus, I should say. The Saturday twilight game was at Etihad Stadium for Gary Ablett's 300th. The Gold Coast Suns taking on North Melbourne. They won pretty convincingly, to be honest. The final score 18-10-118, defeated North Melbourne 14-15-99 in front of nearly 13,000 at Metricon. As I mentioned, Saturday night, 2 games. We witnessed our first draw of 2017. This game really did go down to the wire, and well, GWS were in front by a point when Tommy Hawkins marked it. Kick after the siren. He missed, and of course got it behind to draw the game. The final score being the Giants 10-8-68 to Geelong 10-8-68 in front of just over 15,000 at Spotless Stadium. The other Saturday night game was a real kind of statement from the Tigers. It was a close game early. It was actually a close game throughout the entire match, but Richmond were able to get through and win the game. Port Adelaide pretenders, And are Richmond now a real threat to that flag in 2017? Very big talking point there. The final score, Port Adelaide 8-15-63, defeated by Richmond 11-10-76. The three Sunday games, the early one being at Etihad Stadium between Essendon and the Brisbane Lions. Essendon led this throughout the whole day. They were about 20-odd points up at the start of the fourth quarter, but Brisbane Lions came back and won the match in what was a great win for them. That's their third win of season 2017. Now, of course, the new coach, Chris Fagan, doing great things at the Brisbane Lions Footy Club. The final score, Essendon 11-16-82, defeated by Brisbane Lions 13-12-90 in front of just over 41,000 at Etihad. The mid-Sunday afternoon game was between Hawthorn and Collingwood at the MCG, and Hawthorn did win this 18-10, 118, defeated Collingwood 14-10-94 in front of 56,593 at the G. Hawthorn actually put themselves into small top 8 contention now. They're not out of it. They can mathematically make the top 8. So a win this up-and-coming round 16, could really open their chances wide open. And then the Sunday twilight game, really good game this one, but St Kilda stole the show, won by 9 points at Domain Stadium. The final score being Fremantle 12-8-80, defeated by St Kilda 12-17. 12-17. 89 in front of 30,541 at Domain Stadium. So that is the round 15 results. Another great round of footy. As I mentioned, the first draw of 2017. Richmond making a statement in this round, I think, was a big story as well. Of course, after those close losses, it seems that Richmond are going along quite nicely. And, of course, the Brisbane Lions getting their third win of season 2017. A big talking point there, of course, the Western Bulldogs lost and the Eagles winning in Melbourne finally. Big stories as well. So that is the round 15 results. On now to having a look at how that affects the AFL ladder after round 15. So the Giants remain on top of the table after round 15. They lead 2 points clear of the Adelaide Crows, who got a win over the Blues. Geelong 2 points behind the Crows, and you then have Richmond fourth, 4 points clear of Port Adelaide, who is fifth. Also Melbourne on the same points as Port Adelaide in sixth. The West Coast Eagles are on 32 points, also on seventh, as well as St Kilda, who are sitting in 8th place and rounding out the top 8. And then you have the Sydney Swans, who are really pushing for a top 8 spot. They're only 4 points out of the top 8 at the moment. They verse the Gold Coast Suns, who are 12th on the ladder. You would be expecting them to win that, and they could possibly be in the top 8 at the end of round 16. The Dogs are 10th. They're on the same points as the Swans, but the Swans have the better percentage. Essendon 11th. As I mentioned, the Suns 12th. Hawthorn 13th. And they're not too far out of the 8, and they could mathematically make it. So watch out. Could the premiers of 2013, 14 and 15 make the top 8 once again? They haven't missed out for quite a long time, since 2009. Fremantle are 14th. They could mathematically make it, but you would think that they are probably just about gone now. Collingwood surely can't make the finals now. Their season is done and dusted in terms of a top 8 spot. Carlton 16th, North Melbourne 17th, and the Brisbane Lions are last on the ladder in 18th spot, just 4 points behind North Melbourne. So that is the AFL ladder after round 15. Time now to get on to the stats wrap up after round 15. The leading disposal, goal kickers, marks and also tackles. Here it is. Tom Mitchell leads the disposals on 496. Matt Crouch a bit behind on 447 in second place. Andrew Gaff from the West Coast Eagles third on 441 disposals. Zach Merritt is fourth on 440 disposals. And then the Brownlow medalist of last year, Patrick Dangerfield, is fifth with 436 disposals. The goals, well, Jeremy Cameron and Lance Franklin are basically joint first on 40 goals each. Franklin scored 4 against Melbourne on the weekend. Cameron could only be held to 1 goal on Saturday night in that draw against Geelong. Danaher is third on 38. He kicked 3 against the Brisbane Lions in Essendon's loss there at Etihad on Sunday. Eddie Betts is fourth. He kicked 2 goals on the weekend against Carlton, his former side, to put him fourth with 37 goals. And then Robbie Gray rounds out the top 5. He only got 1 goal on Saturday night. He's in fifth with 35 goals. The marks, Sam Docherty leads the marks on 138. Jeremy Howe is second with 123 marks. Third is West Coast Eagles' Jeremy McGovern on 110. Geez, he is a good player, Jeremy McGovern, it's no doubt about that. Jeremy Cameron fourth with 107 marks, and then West Coast Eagles' Elliot Yeo is fifth with 105 marks. And then finally the tackles, Rory Sloane leads the tackles on 114. Brad Ebert second with 107. Third is Jack Viney with 104. Dane Zorko also on 104, and then fifth is the Western Bulldogs star player Marcus Bontempelli. He is on 99 tackles. So that is the stats wrap up for after round 15. Okay, time now for my favourite segment here on the show, and that is the 5 talking points of the week. This is where I pick 5 talking points that have generally been talked about in the media through the various shows, and I weigh in and give my opinion and so forth. So let's start with the first one. It is to do with the red card concept, and of course this comes after the Tom Bug incident that happened on Friday night, where he of course punched Callum Mills, got 6 weeks for it, and of course Callum Mills missed the entire game basically because of that little incident. And so it comes after that. Of course there is a bit of thought that if you do that sort of thing and the player is out of the game basically, then that player should basically sit out the game as well. I like it. I'm a bit 50-50 with it being a good idea, because I think it has the potential to go wrong as well. We've seen in sports such as the World Games, soccer, that the referee tend to give a controversial red card that isn't exactly correct, and so we don't really want. If we bring in this concept, we don't really want it to become that in our game of Australian rules football. So I think if it's going to work, you'd have to probably connect the video review system with this concept, because that's probably the only way it's going to kind of work and be 100% correct, if you know what I mean, or 100% working, because we can't bring in this concept if it's not going to work fully 100%. So look, I like it for the incidents such as the Thomas Bug incident, and even the Hawley incident a couple of weeks ago. I think if a player misses just because of another player's action, then he should probably come off, as opposed to him playing the game while the person he I guess hit or so forth sits out the game. Of course, Thomas Bug got to participate in the rest of the game on Friday night. Callum Mills had to sit out on the bench for the rest of the game. So I'm a 50-50 kind of good idea. I think it's a good idea, but there's also a little bit of a side where we don't want it to get to, if you know what I mean. Next talking point is the lack of spirit at the Western Bulldogs. That's what some people are questioning. Some people saying that the spirit at the Western Bulldogs has gone from last year. Of course, they had a lot of hunger last year, possibly on a little bit of a mission last year. Of course, we know that they had a lot of injuries last year, still kept going and really fighting out the season. This year it's kind of been a bit of a different story, but I'm not subscribing to the fact that the Western Bulldogs have lack of spirit. I think it comes down to them not getting the basic skills of the game right. They are playing sloppy football, turnover footy. They have the ability to turn it over far too many times as comparison to last year. They lack structure at times. They're loose in defence most of the time. I think that was kind of noticeable in the game on Saturday against the Eagles, where they had kind of 2 forwards and 1 defender at times, which, who's going to win that battle? Of course, it is going to be the West Coast Eagles and not the Dogs. They're not efficient inside 50 as well, which is I think is a bit costly for them this season as well. Even though they haven't really been a high-scoring team for some time now, they probably didn't win the flag based on real high scoring last year, but they are being very, very inefficient inside 50, and it's really costing them to actually put score on the board. And I just think teams are playing better footy than them this year. It's fair to say that I guess they've captured their game plan a little bit from last year, and I guess that's kind of mucked the dogs up a bit this year as well. They aren't playing the way that Beveridge wants them to play. That's the thing. I don't think they lack spirit. I think the spirit is still there. I don't think they lack hunger. I think it's still there as well. I think it just comes down to them not playing the basics of the game right. And but you know what? Maybe they are suffering a premiership hangover, and that is kind of sad for Western Bulldog fans such as myself, because you know, we don't want to wait another 50 odd years or so for a flag. We want to be able to you know, get a flag again very, very soon. But this year it's looking not certain that they're going to make the top 8 at the moment. The next talking point is Nathan Buckley is sacked based on his 5.5 years in charge at the Collingwood Football Club. Yes, this is correct. If he was to be based on his 5.5 years, nearly 6 years now at the end of this year, if he was to be based on that, of course he would be sacked. He only spent his first 2 years of his coaching at Collingwood in the finals, made the semi-finals the first year in charge in 2012. The preliminary finals, and then I think he got knocked out in the first week in 2013. But if he's going to be based on 5.5 years, he definitely is sacked, because 3 years, probably going to be 4 years out of the finals is probably not good enough. He doesn't have a pathway. Collingwood don't have a pathway. They were never going to make the finals this year. I gave them a sneaky chance, but they have a promising list, but they have some loose areas. And their game style is not kind of working as well to actually get them inside the top 8. So the Collingwood Football Club isn't helping Buckley's cause, but if he was to be based purely on his coaching so far in his 5.5 years, nearly 6 years, then of course he's sacked. He's not there next year, and that would be sad, because I feel like he is a good coach. I feel like he's doing something with this group. He's building this group slowly, but it's just not working at the moment, so it's probably going to be likely he's not going to be there next year. Collingwood, they need to put a pathway in place. They need to, you know, clubs, it's fair to say they've been going for a little bit of a regeneration of the last couple of years. They've got rid of some old players, some 30-plus players. They've brought in some new kind of youth, some promising players, you know, Trelaw and so forth. Obviously, there's Moore and there's other kind of players as well there. Of course, they do lack some forwards, some key forwards, which is hurting them at the moment. But to say every single year that you're aiming to make the finals is a bit unrealistic. They need to be realistic and work out a pathway. Okay, let's go the next few years, just see where we are in the next couple of years, see where our list is at. Let's hope we're in contention for the finals that year. And if you know, Buckley had a pathway in place like that and then failed, then it's right of him to be sacked. So it's a bit of a kind of the football club, I don't reckon, have really helped Buckley's cause as coach, to be honest. Next talking point, the Brisbane Lions can make finals within the next 3 years. I think so. I think under Chris Fagan they're playing some very, very good promising footy this season. They've had the 3 wins, which is fantastic to see. They are still at the bottom of the ladder, but they are at the bottom of the ladder with some hope. I love their list. I think their list is quite promising. They have a lot of youth. Hitwood and the likes are sensational. Hitwood's a gun. I'm really impressed with how he's going. He's going to be probably in the top 5 of the Coleman Medal in the next 1, 2, maybe 3 years. But I think the Brisbane Lions can make the finals in a couple of years' time. They could even be close to that next season. It could be a bit too soon, but you never quite know. But I think in a couple of years' time, I think they could be in a top 8 spot and playing finals footy, which would be huge for a club who has been pretty much down ever since that three-peat. The last talking point is the Etihad Stadium roof. Of course, a little bit of controversy after the roof was left open for the Essendon and Brisbane Lions game on Sunday, and I can tell you what, it looked The stadium looked really, really ugly on TV on Sunday for that game. We know that when the stadium leaves its roof open and the sun is shining, it makes the stadium look ugly on the TV. It is bad for viewers. It is bad for the players. The structure of the stadium cannot actually handle the sun glaring into the stadium. It is not like the MCG. It is not like those type of stadiums where it's an open stadium where the stadium actually looks good with sunshine. This stadium is different because of how it's structured and so forth, and because of the infrastructure. The sun is just, it makes the stadium look horrible, and it looks horrible on television. I was watching the game on Sunday on television and it just looks ugly with the sun glaring in. So I think the roof should be closed at all times during the AFL season. Especially when the sun is glaring in like that, and you know there's parts where there's sun, parts where there's shade. It just looks horrible. It's different when it comes to the summer when you know the A-League and the Big Bash is playing, because those events are at the night time and there's no sun shining in, and so it's okay to leave the roof open because there's a little bit of hot weather. But just close the roof for goodness sake, Etihad Stadium. You know, it's not good for anyone, the sun glaring in like that on a winter's day through the stadium. Just close the freaking roof. Okay, time now to have a look at the round 16 matches as well as my tips. Let's start with the opener of round 16. It is on Friday the 7th of July, Friday night footy at Adelaide Oval between the Adelaide Crows and the reigning premiers, the Western Bulldogs, starting at 7:20 p.m. local time, 7:50 p.m. Eastern time. You can watch this match on 7 and Fox Footy. I think this has the potential to be a really good game. The Western Bulldogs have won 3 of the last 5 against the Crows in the last 5 matches they have played each other. Like I said, I think this has the potential to be a really good game. I'm tipping the Western Bulldogs because that's the side I barrack for, and I don't tend to tip against the side I barrack for, but I'm not confident with that tip because I think the Crows are going to be hard to beat, even though they dropped their last game at home to Hawthorn. They have dropped 2 at home this season, the other one being against Melbourne earlier in the year. Saturday, 8th of July, there is 5 massive games. It all starts at 1:45 p.m. with the first game, Hawthorn taking on the GWS Giants at Etihad Stadium. You can watch this game on Fox Footy. This is the third of 4 games at Etihad Stadium that Hawthorn are playing. Of course, this is their home away from home. Of course, its traditional name is York Park. Of course, Aurora Stadium renamed to Etihad Stadium at the start of this year, or at the back end of last year, I should say. But I'm tipping an upset. I'm tipping Hawthorn. I think they've got some mojo, and I think coming down to a stadium where the Giants actually haven't won at, and you know the Giants can be vulnerable away from home. We've seen that at Etihad a couple of times this year, and I saw them against North Melbourne, where even though they won that game convincingly in the end, they were put to the test against North Melbourne at Blundstone Arena in Hobart earlier in the year. But I'm going to go Hawthorn for a bit of an upset to keep their top 8 hopes alive. At 2:10 p.m, Collingwood meet Essendon at the MCG. Really looking forward to this game. You can watch it on Fox Sports 3. Essendon will be absolutely keen to bounce back after that loss to the Brisbane Lions on Sunday, a game where they led the whole way. They led at 3/4 time by 3 odd goals, and you expected them to finish the job in the 4th quarter, but they didn't do that. So I'm tipping Essendon to bounce back in this game against a struggle Collingwood, who is putting Buckley under the pump at the moment. It's fair to say that. The twilight game at the SCG at 4:35 p.m. The Sydney Swans taking on the Gold Coast Suns. You can watch this game on Fox Footy. I think the Swans will win that convincingly and put themselves inside the top 8. 2 Saturday night games, 7:25. They are both at St Kilda, Richmond and Etihad Stadium. This is Maddie's match for a great cause. You can watch this game on 7 and Fox Footy, tipping Richmond to win it, but I'm expecting a close tussle. And the other game, as I mentioned, 7:25 p.m. at the Gabba. It's the Brisbane Lions and Geelong. Fox Sports 3. This game is on, and look, I was very close to tipping the Lions because I think they could give Geelong a little bit of a shake-up, but I think the Cats will win. They have won at recent times at the Gabba. In fact, the Brisbane Lions haven't beaten Geelong at the Gabba since that Ash McGrath winning goal in 2013 to win them the match. 3 games on Sunday. The first one is at 1:10 p.m. North Melbourne v Fremantle at Etihad Stadium. You can watch this on Fox Footy. I'm tipping North Melbourne to win this one, although I expect a close game at Etihad. The mid-Sunday afternoon game at 3:20 p.m. is between Carlton and Melbourne. This game is at the MCG. You can watch this game on 7 and Fox Sports 3. I think Melbourne will bounce back after that loss to the Swans in round 15. And then the final game is at 2:40 p.m. local. That's Perth time. 4:40 p.m. Eastern time. That is, it's the West Coast Eagles and Port Adelaide at Domain Stadium. This game can be viewed on Fox Footy. Tipping the West Coast Eagles. Of course, they've already beaten Port Adelaide this year. That was at the Adelaide Oval, so they should win this one. Pretty convincingly, I would have thought, and I think Port Adelaide are under a little bit of pressure now because they were playing some very, very good footy in the early mid stages of the season, but now they are just starting to drop off a little bit, and they haven't actually beaten a top 8 side yet, so they could just be pretenders at the moment. That's what they are seeming to be at the moment. So that is round 16. That is the matches and my tips. And that is it for Bev's Footy Show after round 15. Thank you very much for watching. Of course, don't forget to like, comment and share this video if you enjoyed it. And don't forget to press that subscribe button because I do other content here on this YouTube channel, Bevob5 Productions. So make sure you press that subscribe button. I don't think it's yellow anymore, is it? I think it's red. But anyway, it's somewhere around this video, the subscribe button. Of course, don't forget also to check out my weekly live stream on Facebook at facebook.com/The Bev Show. It is called The Bev Show. It is an hour and a half show where I answer comments and talk about sport, not just AFL, other sports as well that are happening. It is a successful show at the moment, so go and view that every Sunday, 8:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Time, and it's every Sunday on facebook.com/The Bev Show. So make sure you go check that out, especially if you want to hear more opinions on what I think of the AFL and also other sports. So thank you very much everyone for watching Bev's Footy Show after round 15. Until next week, enjoy round 16. Bye for now.